There was a point in Season 5 when people even doubted us New York Knicks to return to the playoffs at all this season, let alone make this much noise in the postseason. But here we are, one win away from our second consecutive sweep. Welcome back to my channel for episode number 76 of the Road to NBA 2K21 on the PlayStation 5. You heard that right. 5 straight playoff wins for me, Ferran, and the New York Knicks as the conference semis. They turned back to Boston as the Celtics look to turn around their ice-cold team shooting slump before it's too late. We've had an explosive offense all season long, but the team defense has actually been what's shining through in the postseason, holding the Celtics to 36% shooting from the field through the first 2 games. Before we tip off Game 3 though, we're going to check in with Donnie and Deshaun, my 2 other good friends, to see how their teams are faring in the second round of the Western Conference's playoffs. Both the Mavericks and the Blazers, they're tied 1-1 and face very important Game 3s as they both play before we do, so we're going to hop in to their games first. First up, we have the Portland Trail Blazers, a sort of Cinderella, if you will, of the Western Conference. They finished 6th, had some tough injuries, but looked to take a 2-1 series lead against the 2 seed, the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have made a lot of changes. And one of those changes is currently trying to guard Damian Lillard, who throws a spinning assist out to Yusuf Nurkic to take a 4-point Portland lead with 1:16 left to go here in Game 3. John Wall's a change. They also signed DeMarcus Cousins, so the 2 former teammates at Kentucky team up here. They still managed to keep Karl Anthony Towns and drafted Jonathan Kuminga and kept D'Lo while also sporting a pretty solid bench, so it's no surprise that they won over 50 games this year as Damian Lillard tries it again. 1 big assist and now another huge 3-pointer. We've seen Lillard do it so many times against yours truly in the playoffs, and he's trying to do it against Minnesota, but doesn't close out on John Wall, who's had a career resurgence this season in Minnesota. They closed the gap back to 2. John Wall actually finished 2nd in the NBA this season behind yours truly. In assists per game, he had slightly over 10 assists. But Minnesota just didn't have enough left in the gas tank. They would fall after Donovan steps up to the line and knocks down 2 free throws to put the icing on the cake. Donovan playing some really good basketball here in the playoffs. Is averaging 21 points, 13 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 45% from deep. And then he added another double-double with 4 rejections this time around, shooting 50% from the floor. So Donnie G doing all he can to turn some heads here in the playoffs as Portland continues to battle some injuries. They haven't had McCollum for most of the season, and Donnie's been a little banged up, but they're still winning games, and they're up 2-1 on the 2 seed. And as we shift gears over to Dallas and Deshaun, and the Nuggets have definitely been a headache for the Mavericks, the number 1 seed Dallas Mavericks, but they do pull away at the end thanks to Deshaun putting up 38, 2 blocks, 2 steals, one of his best overall performances of his career. The Denver Nuggets are missing Nikola Jokic in that series, but they're still holding firm. They've been in every single game, but now Dallas also only 1 win away from clinching a Western Conference Finals berth. So we're going to try to do the same here. We're also 1 win away from making the conference finals and taking on the defending champions, the Miami Heat. That is, if we can get a win on the road here tonight in the TD Garden. And we force a stop here on the first possession, feeling really good, coming out with a little pep in our step, trying to run the break, nothing doing here, as actually Marcus Smart is the one picking me up. Too slow on the pick and roll, however, is Robert Williams. But that was very surprising. Kemba Walker is coming off a really good game too, where he had 35 points. Now, most of those were in garbage time, but it looks like going forward, with Boston having a lot of trouble guarding myself and Ferran, they want a little bit of boost on the defensive end. So maybe that's why we're seeing more Marcus Smart, who's been okay. He's only scored 16 bench points the first 2 games, but with his defensive attention and IQ, I mean, he's always going to have a spot in the rotation, as I find Cade Cunningham, who's also been struggling a little bit. I mean, he averaged 15 points a game in the Washington series, but he's only 4 for 26, now 5 for 27 here in the series with that made 3-pointer as I strip Jason Tatum. Bounce pass. Here we go with Cade, trying to get him off to a better start. A quick 3 first-quarter assists for myself as Jason Tatum continues to just go through the motions here in this series. Another pull-up J, this one's off, and then Mitchell Robinson helps out Cade on the interior. Jason Tatum's averaged 28 points through the series thus far, but he's only made 21 shots in 63 attempts for a average of 33% from the field. But we'll switch the focus back to New York as I get on the board with a little jab cross. Such an effective move, and Jaylen Brown a bit too tardy to block that shot. As Julius Randle throws me another assist, even though he hasn't scored a lot in the playoffs, he has played a really well-rounded attack thus far, with a lot of assists tallied through his first 5 playoff games. But Ferran tacked for his second foul. That looked like a clean block to me off the backboard. He pinned Jaylen Brown's shot, but that's his second personal. So Ferran, always a really physical defender. He doesn't mind getting up in your face whenever you're dribbling the rock. He's gonna have to take a little bit off the gas pedal on the defensive side of the floor as I check back in. Now Boston trims the lead down to 4, that is, until I find Ferran. Didn't take me very long to throw him an assist here in the second quarter as he splits not 1, not 2, but 3 Celtics defenders. Carson Edwards, not really the most favorable matchup for the Celtics on the defensive side of the floor, trying to cover Ferran. As I actually haven't thrown Ferran a lot of assists thus far in this Celtics series. Jaylen Brown has given it his all to try to stop Ferran, one of the best wing defenders in the NBA, as he knocks down a 3 there to cut it to a 1-point deficit for Boston. As they face elimination here in Game 2, as Jaylen Brown continues to try to take over this second quarter. That's now 7 unanswered points for Brown, as he only scored 17 total points between games 1 and 2, but he's been the best player on the floor for Boston here in Game 3 as I glide my way to the paint, kick out to Julius Randle. Randle has fouled me a lot in this series, and even in the Washington series too. He played a lot of point forward, so I return the favor there as Ferran guards Marcus Smart on this possession. As I went a little long on the post fadeaway, grabbed my second rebound to go along with my 3 and 6 as I put some moves on Carson Edwards, who continues to have a forgettable second quarter on the defensive side of the floor. Up to 5 points now as we retake the lead, but Boston not going anywhere. Knotted up at 36 apiece. Double pin down screen for Ferran, who curls off of it. Catch and fire in rhythm, and he will knock it through. Nice job, Ferran, as he is coming off a 34-point performance in Game 1. He's averaged over 25 points a night through this entire playoff series. As here comes Marcus Smart at the dish over to Carson Edwards, and this is where I started to see the refs starting to favor Boston a little bit here in Game 3. Another foul is pinned on Ferran. We covered that pick and roll perfectly. I overplayed the screener, so Ferran came up and helped and contested Edwards' shot to perfection, but the refs thought otherwise. And as we head into the late stages of the first half, we're still up by 6, but Ferran still stays on the court surprisingly. And this time I'm trying to cover Jaylen Brown, and with Ferran in foul trouble and me obviously not being physical enough to cover Brown, he's up to 17 now, so he's doing what we all thought Jason Tatum would be doing in this ball game. But Ferran knocks down his second 3-pointer of the second quarter to give us our biggest lead of the night, 46-39, as we head into the huddle, and I would actually be taken out with the rest of the starters for the last 3 and some change of the first half. So let's see what the bench can do. They played pretty well throughout the entire playoffs, but they let off the gas a little bit. It's not up at 61 apiece as we head into the halftime period of Game 3. It's hard to see why Boston's still in this game. I mean, we shot a higher percentage, taken 10 more shots as a team, and we forced 6 turnovers. But look at Jaylen Brown. He had 17 points, and 13 of those came in the second quarter alone. Also, Boston took 9 more free throws than we did. The refs up here calling things very close here in Boston for us when we're on defense, and that's honestly something to monitor going forward. Some players in foul trouble for the Knicks as I finished the half with 7, 3, and 8, 50% from the floor. So despite the personnel change with Marcus Smart getting the start tonight, I'm still having a good ball game here through the first half, as out of all of the Knicks, Boban Marjanovic actually leads us in points with 10 at the half. Ferran with 2 made threes, 8 and 3 on the night, but once again, those 3 personal fouls. So it's going to be hard to try to cover Jaylen Brown with 3 personals to your name, as he actually assisted Jason Tatum, who improves to 4 for 11 from the floor. So Tatum's trying to finally get things going here in the Knicks series after averaging 29 in the first round series against Boston's first round opponent. But there is Cade Cunningham putting the ball on the deck. Love to see it. He's up to 9 points now. And even though the rookie at Oklahoma State, Cade, has not really had it here in this series, he still is covering Jason Tatum at an extraordinary level as he forces him into another miss. And look at this assist right here. Back pick for Ferran. I find him on the backdoor feed. That was beautiful. I saw he had Daniel Tice on him off of the fast break, and I knew Tice would not have the foot speed to keep up with him going back door. 7 minutes to play here in the third quarter. Tatum cannot tie it up as Randall secures another rebound. He actually had 17 in game 2, but that one's taken away. That pass a little bit errant as Marcus Smart then smokes the layup, and I put my trust in the Cade. I knew he was going to get that stop, so I'm out there cherry picking. Oh my goodness, look at this play right here. We have been kind of going through the motions a little bit here in game 3. So I wanted to get a little bit fancy here on the fast break. I put my trust in the K to get that stop. I knew he would, and I throw it off the backboard to myself for the first time in my career. I've never done that before. But as we head into the final period of play here in game 3, we do find ourselves down to Boston with a really positive second and third quarters for themselves as they try to play the upset role here in the comeback bid here in this series. So beginning the fourth quarter, Austin Rivers and Obi Toppin check in, and check out this defensive possession. We were everywhere there to begin the fourth quarter as we try to get out on the break here a little bit. TD Garden chanting defense. They're getting loud, so let's quiet them down. Come on, Toppin, knock down that mid-range. Nicely done there. Toppin has led the bench in scoring here in the playoffs. He's averaging around 10.5 points through the first 4 games for us here in the playoffs, so that'll knock things back up at 84 apiece as Rivers then tries to cover, keyword tries, Jaylen Brown. That's not the matchup we want at all. We're letting Ferran get a quick breather, well deserved, as he still plays with 4 fouls now as Smart runs a pick and pop with Daniel Tice, and the only thing with that rotation was just how well were we going to do on defense, and as you can see, not very well. So Mitchell Robinson checks back in with Ferran, but check out the rebounding for Boston here in the fourth quarter. They're already up by 6, and they earn themselves not a second, but now a third chance at it, and Robert Williams makes us pay, who has been absolutely amazing on the glass against us. He had 20 rebounds in game 2, despite it being a pretty big loss for Boston as Kemba Walker then tries to check back in. That one's off the mark, but Tice is there for the follow now. What has happened to our rebounding here in game 3? All of a sudden, it is non-existent, and rebounding has been probably our best attribute as a team throughout this entire series. But here in the second half, we're getting out-rebounded 27-14, and we've only managed 28 points through a quarter and a half here in the second half. We're already down by 10 with 3:42 left to go. Our consecutive playoff win streak is on the line. It could end at 5 today if we don't manage a comeback and if we don't finally crash the glass. But Mitchell Robinson, he snatches Daniel Tice's second look at it. Ferran, he is given a feed by Cade, who will knock it down. Nicely done on the break, and this was one of the most insane blocks I've ever seen in 2K. With one hand, Mitch snatches. Tice is follow dunk, and that could provide some big momentum here down the stretch, but we need some stops. That's been the problem here in the fourth quarter. 108-98, Kemba, look at this. He'll step it back like he's still playing for UConn, and he will swish it through. Kemba, he will ice the game here with a step back 3 in the final moments. 113-98 is your final. A very sour fourth quarter where we just became so flaccid on the rebounding. We became very soft as a team. That's really not like us, not like a Tom Thibodeau coached team at all. It was really interesting to see Boston's change of attack this game. I mean, this series has been played at such a high speed. Boston attempted over 100 shots, almost 110 shot attempts as a team back in game 1, but gradually they're slowing down their offense and they're getting better looks game by game, and it all culminated tonight. That on top of the rebounding being MIA in the fourth quarter, Jaylen Brown putting the team on his back, and the refs seemingly favoring Boston a lot of this game with a lot of the foul calls. They shot a lot more free throws than we did. All of that really came together for a blowout loss for us to snap our win streak at 5. But we'll look at Portland and Dallas real quick, as they're both up 2-1 in their respective series, as Portland's starting to get the break speed off of them. That is until they come storming back in the fourth quarter to take a 25-9 run into the final stages of the game to close the gap down to 3. Portland already without CJ McCollum. He's out for the playoffs with a torn MCL. They haven't had him for a lot of this season. But the 6th seed Blazers, with a lot going against them, they're 1 win away and 5 points away from potentially making the conference finals once again here in the series. 60 seconds left to go as Lillard tries to run a pick and roll at the high post between him and Donnie, but a lot of congestion in the paint, and I think DeMarcus Cousins got a piece of that layup. So Minnesota one more shot away from putting this game to bed. Let's see, John Wall then will receive a pick from Karl Anthony Towns, and no, it's not a replay. He'll go right for the second straight possession to put in another layup. 116-109. That was really the end of the game, as Minnesota, they put Portland's comeback attempt and conference finals appearance on hold for another game, as this game goes to a winner-take-all game 5. Donovan with 21 and 15. Lillard breached 30 points, but 3 players from Minnesota reached 20. Wall, Towns, and Russell. Man, that's such a scary team. So we'll see if Dallas has any better luck closing out Denver here, as they're also up 2-1, but this time it's my friend on the receiving end of a comeback bid. Denver comes storming back here in the fourth quarter to cut it down to a 2-point game. Man, this team will not go away even without Nikola Jokic. Jamal Murray doing it all himself, going toe-to-toe with the MVP of this season, Luka Doncic, as he rises up and slams it down. We all know how Jamal Murray comes into his own around playoff time. I mean, we've seen it firsthand whenever I was in the West and I played for the Pelicans. Murray is a whole different animal when it's postseason time, and there is 4 consecutive points to put him at 26 for the game and to put Denver up by 2. So here comes Luka and Deshaun, as Deshaun's on the right wing, but he'll clear it out for Doncic to go to work as Gary Harris holds firm. Harris also a really good playoff player. He always had a lot of good series against us whenever I was on New Orleans, as he delivers a nice feed and a good post move by Michael Porter Jr., who, by the way, just got the bag in real life. You see him, he got a max contract. Anyway, 119-115, Dallas with probably their final shot here, as Doncic scans the floor, receives a screen from KP, will try to step it back, split 2 Denver defenders, including Bull, to rise up and slam down a tomahawk jam to keep Dallas's hopes alive. They're trying to close out the stingy Nuggets here in the 3rd game of this series. Murray moving to his right. That one is not even close. 24 seconds left, a 3-second difference between shot clock and game clock. Here comes Doncic. That one is deflected away. Gary Harris once again stops Doncic, and Deshaun is forced to intentionally foul, and that's actually his 6th personal, so no more Deshaun for Dallas here in game 3. They're going to have to look for a 3 without their best 3-point shooter, but they're actually going to go for a quick 2. There's Doncic once again. It was only a matter of time before he converted it inside the painted area. So 14 ticks left, as Gary Harris is indeed fouled once again, this time by Doncic, and he would knock down the first one. So this one's to force Dallas to take a 3 here with 11 seconds to go with no more timeouts, and Gary Harris, no problems there. So what does Dallas have cooking? No Deshaun, so he'll give it up to Norman Powell, who turns away and ties up the game. What a great pickup Powell has been for Dallas. They acquired him in the previous offseason of this series, and he knocks down a huge triple in favor of the fallen Deshaun Christian. He checked in with Deshaun fouling out, and he ties it up. But I do have to say something, guys. This is where my brain kind of went rogue. I didn't realize that there were still 7 seconds left on the clock, so I simmed this last play because I thought it was going to go into overtime, and Denver knocks down a game-winning 3 with 7 seconds left. I don't know why I did that. I'm such an idiot. But as I look at the game log, it looks like Michael Porter Jr. tried to take a three to win the game. It missed. Gary Harris grabbed the rebound, gave it to Keldon Johnson. Johnson gave it back to Harris, and Gary Harris knocks down a three to tie things back up at 2 games apiece. I wish we could have seen that. I don't know what made me sim that last play, as Deshaun with probably his least I don't want to say it was a bad performance, his least impactful performance of his season 5 playoff run, as Jamal Murray and Michael Porter both put up 26 apiece, and Gary Harris has 15 of his own to be the hero tonight. So there's a lot at stake tonight, here with the final game in the TD Garden. That is, if Game 5 is even necessary. If we win tonight, you guys should know how it works. We'll move on to face the Miami Heat. But if we lose, I'll be live streaming Game 5. You should know how it works on the channel, as Ferran does not want anything to go up to chance. You can tell. He is a villain when he's on the road, and he embraces that role. He's such a good pressure player, especially when he's in an opponent's gym. So we begin the game with a three-pointer as I deliver a beautiful dime over the outstretched arms of Smart and Robert Williams. Mitchell Robinson rewards me with an assist. What a great playoffs player he has been. He began this playoffs with 4 straight double-doubles. That was snapped back in Game 2 of this series, where he had 12 rebounds, but only 4 points. Overall, he's averaged 10 and 13 here in the playoffs in the entire postseason, but Marcus Smart gets a little bit of space. I was too busy pressuring Jason Tatum, so Boston takes the lead. A lot more, a lot different Boston team we're facing here. They've looked like a completely different team with their moxie and their swagger since Game 3, but I come back and respond. The equalizer to Marcus Smart's 3. We exchange blows right there, a dozen apiece, as Jason Tatum, he now misses his last 3 shots, as I have Daniel Tice on me. I've had his number all playoff series long. Look at this, step back, crossover. I get into the lane, and a little teardrop over Robert Williams, as I'm getting off to a good start here. A quick 5 points for myself as we take the lead 14-12. I've been averaging 17.5 points, 14 assists through the first 2 games this series. I have another opportunity to either score or find a teammate, and that's what I do right there. A very high IQ play by Ferran, as he ran Jaylen Brown off of myself as I picked up my dribble, found some real estate as we dive into the second half, up by 10 as we're trying to get rid of the Celtics in dominant fashion here. I mean, we've had a couple of blowouts through the first 2 series, and we're trying to make it another one here as Obi Toppin steps up and knocks down a 3. Toppin, he's scored in double digits in every game of the playoffs thus far, and he's trying to continue that streak. Like I said earlier, 10.5 points for Toppin, but there comes Kemba Walker, who's still playing an important role off the bench for the Celtics. He's not batting an eye just because he got benched. He's still bringing his A game in this series. Now, playing with Marcus Smart and Kemba Walker out on the floor is Boston. A pretty interesting look. They're already pretty thin at the guard position. No hesitation from Cade Cunningham that time. Slowly yet surely, he's starting to turn it around a little bit. We're going to need him next round against the Miami Heat if we can close out Boston. But yeah, Boston is a little bit thin at the point guard spot. They lost Peyton Pritchard to an injury. He's probably going to be out for the rest of this series. As here comes Ferran, who takes off. Look how far he lifted off from. He goes aerial to dunk this one down over one of the better perimeter defenders he will face all series long. And Daniel Tice came over to provide help to no avail. And on that note, we will take it into the halftime period, up 61-44. Ferran, man, what a talent he is. Even though I haven't thrown him as many assists as I thought I would here in this series, he's still putting up good numbers. And so is our bench. I mean, look at Kevin Knox, 12 and 6, Toppin with 9. He's on his way to another double-digit scoring output. 5 and 5. I didn't score in the second quarter, but my teammates had my back. Everybody getting involved. Everybody who checked in actually scored at least 1 bucket for the Knicks. As Jason Tatum, even though he's under 50%, that was probably his best half of basketball. He's played all series long, and Jaylen Brown continues to save the Celtics and even give them a fighting chance here in this series. So right now, I mean, hey, Dallas couldn't close out Denver. and Portland couldn't close out the Minnesota in their game 4s. We have an opportunity to close out Boston in our game 4. It's time we take advantage, but here comes Julius Randle getting his shot rejected. Up to Jason Tatum, who turns away and gets the crowd in it a little bit. Nicely done there between Smart and Tatum. And this would start a bit of a run for Boston. I mean, our offense has been so consistent all playoff series long and throughout the entire postseason, but we're starting to hit a brick wall here in the second half, as now Jaylen Brown, I mean, even though they've been down a lot this game, they've looked like a completely different team. The Celtics, with their moxie and their poise, they're not out of it. They're starting to heat up once again, just like they did in game 3, seemingly out of nowhere. And I'm not going to lie to you, I kind of messed up the icon passing there, a really stupid turnover, as Boston's forced me into a lot of turnovers this series. I had 3 in game 1 and 2, and then I had 4 last game, and that's actually my 4th of this game. And this is sparking a 12-0 run for Boston. And that would continue into the end of the third quarter. Boston flipped the script in a big way. We're down by 6, and with 1 second left, I tried to get back into it a little bit. Couldn't cut the deficit down to 4 thanks to a very unfriendly rim as we head into the end of the third quarter. I mean, with the snap of a finger, once again, Boston took it to us, scoring 34 in the third quarter and holding us to 4 of 22 shooting in the third. I mean, what in the world happened there? That was one of the worst quarters we've ever seen in this entire Road to NBA 2K series, and we're approaching 80 episodes. So with our backs against the wall and a lot going against us, we're going to have to turn things around here if we want to avoid a game 5. And I call Austin Rivers' number, and he knocks down a huge 3 there. It's finally nice to get back into the stat sheet. I didn't have an assist in the third quarter, and I haven't scored since the first, but I'm trying to change that right here as I go aerial and switch hands, not even looking at the rim on Kemba Walker. Finally, there's a basket for myself. 82-78 Boston, up by 4, still no Ferran or Mitch out on the court. It's going to be me and Julius Randle on this possession. I'm open from 15 feet, and that one rattles home for a bucket. 10 points, 6 assists, 4 for 9 shooting, as we're now still down by 5 as Ferran and Mitch make their re-entry out on the hardwood. 7 seconds left here on this possession. Look at this, I go into the post, and I'm getting real creative to find ways to score over Marcus Smart. Through the first 3 quarters, I was really just going through the motions, didn't make much of an impact, and for myself, that's the biggest thing for me. If I'm making an impact, doesn't have to be scoring, but if I'm really doing a good job of forcing things to go in our direction, making that impact I want to, then that's how I know I'm playing a productive game, and I just haven't been doing that. Speaking of which, Cade Cunningham goes MIA on defense there. Jason Tatum with a huge 3-pointer, so now we're down by 5 with under 4 minutes to go. Are we about to see a live stream for Game 5 after being up 2 games to nothing? I'm going to try to avoid that at all costs. Nice job kicking it back out to Julius Randle. From the elbow, he will put it through. But just like the fourth quarter of the previous game, I mean, we just cannot get stops all of a sudden. Boston scores again, puts themselves up by 4 in the biggest possession of the ballgame. We're under 2 minutes to play now with 10 to shoot on the shot clock. 9 seconds left. I'm going to clear it out. Randle gives me another screen. This one from 10 feet away. Good job closing out on Marcus Smart, but you know him. He's a very physical defender. And he came at me a little erratic, and he fouls me on the jumper. So 2 huge free throws, and I would cash in from the line, knock down 2 of 2 to slim the lead back down to 2. We got 90 seconds left to go as then Jason Tatum has his pocket picked. Randle playing some huge minutes down the stretch. As this one's given off to me, Jason Tatum checks me. So I'm going to go with the better matchup and give it off to Ferran. He's played a huge fourth quarter today, and it will continue. New York on top with 1:17 left to go. We saw Boston with a comeback in Game 3. Ferran, Julius Randle, and I, we're trying to provide our own comeback in Game 4 in the closeout game. 96-95, 1:07 left to go. Good look for Tatum, but just too strong. So now all of a sudden, we have the lead and the possession with a chance to put away Boston for once and for all on these very next few possessions. And I got Robert Williams on me. I'm going to keep the ball in my hands. My teammates trust me, and I finish with my inside hand. 98-95. Once again, up by 3 and feeling really good about myself. My teammates, they all greet me with a lot of handshakes there at the bench. So here comes the Celtics inbound after the Brad Stevens-led timeout. Down by 3 as Tatum actually has a chance to pull, but he takes it too deep in and it's blocked by Mitch, but Williams again recovers. Another offensive rebound for him. Then he sets a screen for Jaylen Brown to find his way to the cup. So that'll trim things back down to 1 in Boston. No time to panic. They still feel pretty good about themselves, I bet, because they got it down to a 1-point game. If they get a stop, they still have 7 seconds between shot clock and game clock. But I'm going to keep it in the hands of the hot hand of Ferran. Between the legs move. He will find another lane and dunk one down like a thief in the night. Ferran sucks the energy right out of the building. We're back up by 3 with only a handful of ticks left here in Game 4. What a closeout performance it's been for me and Ferran. We're leading the Knicks right now to perhaps our first conference finals berth since 1999, but we'll see what Boston has drawn up out of this Brad Stevens timeout. We all know Stevens a very good X's and O's coach. What will they do? Go for the quick 2 or go for the game-tying 3? 16 seconds left. The inbound. Robert Williams finds Tice. They don't give it up to Tatum. Cade has had his number all series long, but Tatum is open, and it rims out. I grab the rebound to secure the series. And I'm going to step up to the line, only needing 1 free throw to put us over the hump. And not only would I make 1, but I would also make 2 to quiet the TD Garden once and for all. Boston, they make us sweat here in Game 4. They almost had me thinking that I would have had to live stream Game 5, but it would not come out to be like that. The New York Knicks continue to be one of the hottest teams in the NBA playoffs, winning 5 out of their first 6 playoff games to take this game 102-100. What a fourth quarter performance. Ferran and I combining for 21 as I chipped in 4 assists and 3 rebounds in that final period of play. Kevin Knox was great off the bench, 16 and 7 in one of his best career performances. Jaylen Brown was almost the hero here in Game 4 as well, but he came up a little short, and Kemba Walker and Marcus Smart combined for only 7 of 23 shooting, facing myself. So, somehow, someway we get it done, and we'll face the defending champions Miami Heat, who just beat us whenever I was on the Pelicans in the NBA Finals a season ago. So, a personal vendetta for me, definitely, trying to get revenge on South Beach for that loss. And also, next time you see me, we're going to tap into Deshaun and Donovan. They're both tied at 2 games apiece in their respective series. So we're going to see how those games panned out as well the next time you see me on the road to NBA 2K series. That Miami Heat series, man, that's going to be a really good one. New York and Miami, Knicks and Heat, that's been a rivalry in the NBA since the 90s. And perhaps we can write another chapter in that coming up in the very next episode. We'll see if the young guns, the New York Knicks, the new kids on the block, can knock down the defending champions, the Miami Heat. So stay tuned for that here on my channel, College Sports Survive. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. See you soon.